Hi everyone, welcome back to another sew along for my new Know Me pattern. This is ME2123. So this is a t-shirt and shorts set. In this video we will be sewing view A, which is the t-shirt. It is a baseball style raglan t-shirt with cuffed sleeves. I'm wearing it here. So for the suggested fabrics, it's stretch knits only, such as bamboo, interlock, rib knit, any kind of jersey knit. There is a stretch gauge at the bottom of the envelope in case you need to test to make sure you have enough stretch. So you may notice that the pattern comes in both misses sizes and girl sizes. The misses sizes range from extra small to extra large, which is about a 4 through a 22, and the girls is a small through a large, which is about a 7 through a 16. So with including the kid sizes in the pattern, I really wanted to make sure this was beginner friendly, especially for those young beginner sewists. Hi.
Hi.
Do you want to learn how to sew some shorts for yourself this summer?
Yes.
Yes. So anyway, if you are an adult making this set for yourself, or you are making a matching set for you and your mini, or you have a young beginner sewist that wants to learn to sew it for themselves, I'm hoping everyone has fun with this pattern, and I cannot wait to see all the versions that are created. Okay, let's get started on sewing the t-shirt. Okay, let's go over the pattern pieces. So for the t-shirt, we have pieces 1 and 2. Those are the front and back of the t-shirt. Then piece 3 is the sleeve, and 4 is the neckband. Okay, so the first thing we have to do here for the t-shirt is attach the sleeves to the front and back bodices. So here I have my front with the right side of the fabric facing up, and I'm going to take one of my sleeves and I'm going to lay it down with right sides together. Make sure it is the side with the single notch indicating the front. The other side of the sleeves has the double notch that indicates the back. So front, right sides together, lay the sleeve down so that the single notch matches up, as well as the small dot right here. I'm just going to move this one out of the way a little bit, and then I'm going to take the other sleeve and do the same thing. Match up with the right sides together, match up the single notch and the small dot. Okay, so both sleeves are pinned to the front bodice. Now you're just going to go and sew 5/8 of an inch away from the raw edge around that armhole. Okay, so I've attached the sleeves to the front, 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. You do need to use a zigzag stitch or some kind of stretch stitch, since this is a knit fabric for the t-shirt. I also finished the raw edge with a serger. That is completely optional, it's up to you. So next I am just going to press the seams towards the sleeves. Now we need to do the same thing with the back. So with it open like this, I'm going to start with one sleeve, and I am going to lay the back piece down, right sides together, match up the double notches and the dot, and then sew 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. So this side is stitched here, 5/8 of an inch. I went ahead and pressed the seam towards the sleeve, and now I'm just going to bring it around to this side, this sleeve, and same thing. Right sides together, match up the double notch and the small dot, and sew 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. So the sleeves are sewn to both the front and the back now. So now we're going to do the side seams. So we are just going to flip it so right sides are together. And starting with one side seam, you are going to match up the underarm seam here. Okay, so I've lined up the raw edge. lined up the corners, the seam here, and the notches, and we're going to sew in one continuous seam from the sleeve down to the shirt hem, 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge, and then you can move over to the other side seam and do the exact same thing. Both side seams are now stitched from sleeve to hem, sleeve to hem. You can press them either open or towards the back. Now we are going to move on to the neckband. So make sure you have all of your notches and small dots marked. And then fold the neckband over with right sides together. Line up the short end and stitch 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. I've stitched that short end. This is now the center back seam, and I pressed it open. So now you need to fold the neckband in half lengthwise, the entire neckband, so that the raw edges line up like such, and press that. So with your t-shirt laying like this, right side of the fabric facing out, you are going to slide the neckband over top and match up the notch with the center front notch on the shirt. And you are lining the raw edges of the neckband with the t-shirt. And then the seam from the neckband should be lined up with the center back of the shirt. And then the rest of the notches and small dots need to be lined up. So once you have lined up all the notches and the small dots, you will just need to stretch the neckband slightly to line it up with the rest of the neckline. Pin it all in place and then sew that 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. Just how you had to stretch the neckband a little bit to fit the neckline of the shirt, you do have to stretch a little bit as you sew. After you stitch it to the shirt 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge, you're going to want to stitch again 1/4 of an inch away from that. So I'm about 1/4 of an inch from that seam that I just sewed. Okay, so we have 2 rows of stitching here. Alternatively, you could use your serger instead of a second row of stitching. But if you do the second row, you just need to trim close to the edge, close to that second row. So trim away that seam allowance. Then you will press the neckband up away from the shirt with the seam allowance going down. And then we are going to edge stitch around the entire neckline. You will be edge stitching on the shirt, not the neckband, and about 1/8 of an inch from the seam line. You can do a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch, or if you have a twin needle, you can use that too. So a little tip, if you are using very contrasting colors like I am, if you're using a very light color and a very dark color, and you do not want the contrasting thread to show, like you don't want the dark thread to show on the light color, you don't want the light thread to show on the dark color, you can switch your threads. I did white thread for my edge stitching on the front and the back, and then I did the green thread for the edge stitching along the sleeves. I just switched it up quick. We are going to start on the sleeves next, and you will notice that I did finish the raw edge of my sleeves with my serger. Again, this is not necessary, it's just my personal preference. You can do it if you'd like, or you can just leave it raw. So we need to fold up the edge of the sleeve towards the inside, towards the wrong side. And you will see on the pattern piece, oops, You will see on the pattern piece there is a fold line for the cuff. That's about 2 inches. So you just need to fold towards the inside 2 inches and press. So once you have folded and pressed 2 inches to the inside, you just need to stitch close to the edge around the sleeve, 1/4 inch from the raw edge. Okay, so I have turned this right side out. And you can see here from the right side the stitching that I did, that 2-inch fold. So now with the right side out, we're going to fold the cuff again towards the right side of the fabric. You're going to fold it about 1 inch. It can be a little more than 1 inch as long as this stitching here isn't showing. So I'm going to fold that about 1 inch or a little bit more. Yep, right there. Give that a good press. And then once it's pressed, just to hold it in place, you're going to go right under the arm here. And right in that seam line, you're just going to stitch in the ditch to hold the cuff in place. All we have left now is the hem. So if you see on the instructions here, the hem allowance is 1 1/4 inch. So I have once again finished my raw edge of the hem with my serger, but that is not necessary. That is my personal preference. It can be left raw. So all you need to do is around the entire hem of your shirt, turn it up by 1 1/4 inch. Let me just get that right here. About there. Do that around the entire hem, front and back. Give it a good press, and then stitch 1/4 inch from the raw edge. So from the top edge here, 1/4 inch away, stitch it down. Okay, so I went ahead and sewed my line of stitching. This is from the right side of the fabric. I sewed from the inside, close to the edge there. You can use a zigzag or a straight stitch. It doesn't really matter here. I just use a straight stitch and increase the length a little bit to like about a 3 length. So now what we are going to do is sew again a second line 1/4 inch away from the first line of stitching towards the hem, 1/4 inch towards the hem. Okay, so there we go. We have 2 lines of stitching for the hem. It's on there. Alternatively, you could use a twin needle instead of doing 2 separate lines of stitching, but either works. And there we have the finished t-shirt.